Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
It has now been 19 days since this project began, and while I have recollected quite a bit of data, I have objectively gotten nowhere. I'm not sure if I can really get to the bottom of this. Every time I think I have a lead, I come to a wall. Sometimes literally, I am faced with the sheer inscrutability of this place. Maybe I should just head back. My notes on the matter up to now should be enough evidence of what they're looking for. Our first clue was the appearance of bulbous growths on the subway tracks referred to as subway mutants. The name is overselling it, though strange in their composure. Meaty bulbs that pulsate when exposed to strong light. One would be hard-pressed to call them living things. They began to appear on the tracks and were violently destroyed upon being run over, splashing the sidelines of awaiting passengers with foul-smelling slime. The construction project had to be halted until we got to the bottom of these phenomena. I was sent to investigate Sector 24, directly under the area in question. Knowing full well of who knows the abandoned tunnels beneath the working subways the best, I conducted a preliminary investigation with a number of homeless individuals who at least claimed to have ventured into the constraints of Sector 24. The area is considered forbidden territory for the homeless who have made other parts of the subway their home, as far as they claim. Apparently they have been familiar with these subway mutants, which, I stress, as just bulbous growths and not the subject of Hollywood horror films, and have stayed away from them on instinct. They could not tell me exactly where they grow, or how, or from what. They mostly remarked on their foul smell. Other than that, they warned me not to enter Sector 24, at least not on my own. I disregarded these warnings as urban mythical paranoia and proceeded. So far nothing has indicated that I would have done better to heed their advice. I have come down here with all the necessary equipment to survive underground for an extended period, approximately 4 weeks. I was told that this method of investigation was ridiculous and that there was no reason for me to not to re-emerge and continue the following day, but unfortunately I know this place too well and have furthermore been enraptured by its mystery. Over the past days I have approached the surface enough times to make contact and establish my position, but other than that have remained down here. To be frank, it is also a self-challenge and an opportunity for urban exploration like I have never been offered before. What follows now is a number of entries regarding the various phenomena noted during my stay in Sector 24 and possible explanations for it. I must stress that I have found no grand explanation for all the things that go down here and will have to head back with the collected data, possibly to return again at a later date. Number 1. Bulbous growths, subway mutants. These formations are ever present in Sector 24. As remarked before, they mostly appear as fleshy, bulbous growths on the more humid sections of the subway, especially close to the reservoir. Depending on their closeness to water sources, their size can vary dramatically. During an inspection yesterday I came upon the largest yet, a conglomeration of growths that has completely overtaken a small room within the labyrinthine passages of the abandoned sector. The entire room pulsates with these growths, livid white and red in color, with various patterns and smudges and the like. Have also noted hair-like growths, possibly similar to feelers, and more solid protuberances, much like ridges lining the edges of their central mass. Working hypothesis is that they are a type of fungi. Much as I was told, they smell quite badly. Number 2. Subway living. I was told by the individuals that I interviewed that nobody lives in Sector 24 for a variety of reasons, but this is simply not true. During my stay here I have found, for example, discarded pans and plastic forks as well as trays and old rags. My most recent confirmation of recent living down here in Sector 24 consisted of a number of possible encounters with a reclusive subject who fled when I tried to interact with him. However, I have heard footsteps and clanging on several occasions now and have continued to come across discarded items indicative of habitation. This becomes particularly clear whenever the sound of a passing subway rattles the confines of Sector 24, which seems to agitate the subject and causes movement. The corridors, paths and nooks of this place are labyrinthine. I cannot stress that enough. Venturing too far is asking to get lost, and since the individual seems to be uninterested in contacting me, I have not bothered him more than necessary. Number 3. Symbols. During my stay in Sector 24, I have found several peculiar graffiti more similar to symbols. There are several permutations on a basic motif, which is that of an eye and a hand drawn over the eye. I have found this symbol drawn with spray paint as well as scraped forcibly into walls and floors at various different points in the sector. Their location seems to have no particular significance that I can think of, though the bulbous growths that I was asked to investigate seem to congregate particularly around wherever these are drawn. I have found a particularly large sample of such a symbol drawn on a far wall, the symbol itself spanning about 8 feet in size. As is usual, the wall is covered with the growths. But I must also stress that the relationship between the two is not very notable to the point where I think that there is a deliberate connection, as I have found growths where there were no symbols to be found, and vice versa. Number 4. Pipes. There are a number of pipes pumping wastewater into areas near the reservoir in Sector 24. I'm not sure of what their purpose or functionality is. They do not work around the clock, they only do so at very specific times. When they do, they spew a thick, brownish bile that sticks to everything and mostly remains in glossy puddles under. I'm not sure where the source of these pipes is located, but it is entirely necessary to investigate on the matter. Upon closer inspection, I have found that similar pipes are located in other parts of Sector 24 and spew the same substance at different times of day like clockwork, yet I am not sure of the machinations behind this system, and I certainly cannot see the purpose. I can only assume this is a combination of faulty engineering, planning and urban decay. I certainly hope there is no crossover between this area and the sewers. Number 5. Spatial anomalies. To put it simply, the layout of Sector 24 has very little to do with the map that I was given for the investigation. It is entirely possible that the map is outdated, but Sector 24 has in no way been expanded or changed, given that it is abandoned, so I am not sure of what to make of it. The architecture is puzzling as well. Wasted space is common. Many tight paths have lead absolutely nowhere, some stairways end in midair. Great open spaces in the middle of the complex seem to serve absolutely no purpose. The entire locale seems to have been constructed to confuse and disorient. I have mostly had to make do on my own for this, but have a basic idea of the layout of the place by now and know my way around it, though its outer reaches are a mystery to me. Addendum. It is possible that the layout of Sector 24 does have some sense to it. I have taken to drawing a provisional map based on what I have encountered, and it seems to form a shape which I'm sure I have seen in the past. There is a technical name for it, but I cannot remember. Will consult on arrival. Number 6. Recent modifications. Although as far as I know nobody has used Sector 24 for anything since the initial construction of the subway system in the late 1980s, there have been some obviously recent modifications to its structure, though most of them are not very notorious. I have for one thing noticed that many of the steel bar that seal off some paths within the complex are quite new and could not have been put in place more than 5 years ago or so. These bars and other similar obstacles are placed in completely arbitrary locations and have severely impeded progress in my investigation. Strangely, many of the sounds I have heard coming from inhabitants within the sector C.2 have apparently come from areas beyond these sealed-off sections. It is likely that they know of paths which I have not discovered. An alternate theory is that they have been living there for several years, before the area was sealed off, but that seems practically impossible. Number 7. Recording. 2 days before this log I came upon an additional discovery which has startled and puzzled me. While I can try to offer explanations for the other phenomena encountered in Sector 24 thus far, I cannot summon a single hypothesis as to why there is a strange recording that plays every day in a specific area of the complex. I had not ventured to this part of the sector previously and was comprehensively shaken when it started playing. Upon later inspection, it is clear that someone has installed an audio system of built-in speakers in the tunnels that comprise this section, which play the recording every single day for an approximate period of 5 hours. The system itself seems to be very old and put into place quite some time ago. Certainly it is older than the steel bars previously mentioned. As for the recording, I'm not sure of what to make of it. It consists of a booming, commanding voice yelling something constantly. I am fairly sure that it speaks Latin but cannot attest to that as I do not speak the language and will have to consult with superiors later as to the nature of this strange implementation. Additionally, the vibrations caused by this booming audio reproduction seem to disturb the bulbous growths, which shrivel and shake during the length of the recording. With no more time or resources to direct a continued investigation, I will have to head back with this limited recollection of information. In either case, I cannot proceed without further intel from superiors, because frankly I am baffled by the many strange characteristics of Sector 24. Addendum: unexpected incident occurred last night. Camera equipment, flashlight and backpack have disappeared while I was sleeping. Traces indicate that it was taken somewhere into the aforementioned area. Upon further investigation, I have encountered that one of the gates put in place has been forced open. We'll try to recover equipment before heading back. Fortunately, the recording is no longer being played. It's so loud that I cannot stand to be near the booming speakers when it plays. We'll now look for equipment and conclude expedition. It is pleasantly quiet.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.